Days turned into weeks aboard the alien vessel, and everything around Liam began to change. The aliens no longer treated him as a mere experiment or a harmless creature. They spoke to him, asked for his thoughts, and sometimes even listened to his advice. What had started as curiosity had now turned into cautious respect. Liam, however, never forgot the truth. He was still a captive. The ship was still his cage, but now he knew that knowledge could bend the walls of that cage little by little until freedom was possible. Each morning he was allowed to move freely under the watch of 2 alien guards. The guards no longer held their weapons close. They were relaxed, almost trusting. Liam made sure to keep that trust alive. He smiled when they greeted him, spoke politely, and asked simple questions about their day. Beneath that calm surface, however, his mind was constantly working. He had learned more about the ship's systems, how the energy lines connected, how the communication channels worked, and how the smaller vessels in the docking bay could be activated. The more he understood, the more he realized how similar alien technology was to human logic. Machines, no matter how advanced, always followed patterns, and Liam had become an expert in patterns. One day, Commander Varkal summoned Liam to the council chamber. The tall alien's movements were graceful, deliberate, but Liam could sense tension in the way Varkal's eyes glowed brighter than usual. Around them, several other high-ranking aliens stood, their limbs folded neatly, waiting. "Human," Varkal said, his deep voice vibrating softly. "We have observed your rapid learning. You have become efficient in our ways. Tell us, how do humans learn so fast?" Liam met the alien's gaze calmly. "Humans survive by understanding," he said in their language. "We watch, we adapt, and we remember. When faced with danger, learning becomes a need, not a choice." Varkal's eyes narrowed. "You mean, fear drives knowledge?" "Not fear," Liam replied. "Hope, the hope to live, to see home again. That is what makes us learn." The room grew silent. For a moment, no one spoke. The aliens had never thought of emotion as a tool for growth. Their species relied on logic, on precise control. To them, emotion was weakness. But here stood a human explaining that hope could be strength. Varkal finally nodded. "Perhaps there is more to your kind than we expected." Liam bowed his head slightly. "Perhaps," he said softly. After that meeting, something changed. The aliens began asking him questions about humanity, not just about science or structure, but about behavior, creativity, and imagination. They were fascinated by the idea that humans could create things that had no purpose other than expression. Art, music, stories. One alien scientist even asked, "Why do humans paint when they gain no energy from it?" Liam smiled. "Because it reminds us that we are alive," he answered simply. That answer traveled through the ship. The aliens began to view humans as something mysterious, something beyond logic. But while they pondered that mystery, Liam kept planning quietly. He now knew which corridors were unguarded, which doors stayed unlocked during maintenance, and how the docking bay security cycle worked. He practiced calm patience, day after day. He continued to speak with the aliens, to help with their puzzles, to share his knowledge. Each conversation was another piece of the puzzle for his eventual plan. Late one night, as the ship drifted near a distant star system, Liam sat alone in his chamber, staring out of the window at the glowing lights beyond. The universe was beautiful, silent, and endless, but it was also a prison until he found a way home. He began to think about his fellow humans. There were 5 of them, kept in other sections of the ship. They had grown stronger and braver after seeing his calm example. One of them, a young woman named Sarah, had even begun learning a few alien words. Liam had quietly taught her whenever he could. He knew that if freedom was possible, he would not go alone. The next day, Liam was invited to assist in a system check. Varkal himself led the operation. The aliens monitored energy flows, navigation data, and shield adjustments. Liam stood near the main control console, watching carefully. The symbols on the screens glowed in patterns he understood perfectly now. Then something unexpected happened. A minor fault appeared in one of the systems, a communication error between the ship and its smaller exploration drones. Varkal ordered the technicians to fix it, but they struggled. Liam stepped forward. "May I try?" he asked. Varkal hesitated but nodded. Liam moved to the console, fingers hovering over the smooth surface. He traced the symbols, following the energy flow in his mind. A few adjustments, a change in sequence, and the system stabilized. The alien stared at him, astonished. "You repaired it," Varkal said slowly. "Yes," Liam replied, stepping back. "Observation teaches much, Commander." Varkal looked at him for a long time before saying, "You are more than we imagined." From that moment, Liam's role changed again. He was granted more access to the ship's systems. He could now enter certain labs without guards, review data files, and even assist in maintenance. The aliens believed he was loyal, that he had accepted his place among them. But Liam knew better. Every access code, every system diagram, every sequence he saw became part of his growing plan. At night, he whispered to himself, "Patience. Knowledge is freedom." One evening, while reviewing data in the communications sector, Liam discovered something remarkable: a file containing recorded transmissions to other alien ships. He realized that he could send a signal, a short message, without being noticed if he timed it perfectly between transmissions. His heart raced at the thought. A signal to Earth, a warning, a proof of life. But he knew he couldn't rush. One mistake could ruin everything. He needed time. So he continued playing his role, helping, learning, waiting. Days later, during another system check, Varkal spoke to him again. "Human, do you ever wish to return to your planet?" Liam looked at him quietly. "Yes, every day. And if we do not allow it?"
"Then I will still learn," Liam said calmly.
Learning is freedom, even in a cage. Varkal studied him for a long moment, then turned away. Liam could sense the alien's uncertainty. Something inside Varkal was changing. Perhaps respect. Perhaps fear. That night, Liam finally acted. When the ship's lights dimmed for rest cycle, he moved silently to the communication panel. He had memorized every symbol, every command. His hands worked quickly but carefully. Within minutes, he had entered the transmission frequency. He typed a simple message in both English and alien language. "This is Liam Carter, human, captured, alive, learning. Do not fear. We adapt." He sent it. The transmission vanished into the stars. Then he erased all traces of the command and sat quietly, heart beating fast. For the first time in months, he felt something close to triumph. It was small, invisible, and dangerous, but it was real. When morning came, he acted as if nothing had happened. The aliens continued their work, unaware. Only Varkal seemed distant, his eyes sharper, his tone slightly different. Perhaps he suspected something. Later that day, the commander spoke to him again. "You are different from others of your kind, human. You learn not only to survive, but to change things." Liam met his gaze calmly. "Maybe that is what makes us human," he replied. Varkal nodded slowly, as if understanding something profound. That night, as Liam returned to his chamber, he gazed once more at the stars. He wondered if anyone had received his message. Maybe it was drifting endlessly. Maybe it had already been found. Either way, he had done something no human had ever done before. He had spoken from inside an alien ship. And as he watched the silent sky, he whispered, "Hope is stronger than fear." He was still a prisoner, but his mind was free. The aliens had taught him their ways, their systems, and their logic. But they had also shown him something far more important, that even in the darkest places, knowledge and courage could light the way. The human pet they had captured had become something else entirely. He was no longer just learning their language. He was rewriting the meaning of survival. And deep inside, Liam knew that the story was far from over. The alien ship drifted silently through the dark expanse of space. Liam stood at the observation window, watching distant stars streak past. Every moment aboard had been a lesson, a test, and a chance to learn. He had watched the aliens learn their language, studied their systems, and quietly influenced them. Now, everything he had prepared was about to be tested. The message he had sent days ago, simple, careful, and hidden in the alien communication network, was drifting across the stars. Somewhere humans would receive it. Earth, perhaps, or a distant research outpost. But Liam could not wait for help. He had to act with what he had here and now. The first step was patience. He waited until the aliens entered their rest cycle, when the ship dimmed its lights and only a few crew members remained awake. Moving quietly, he walked through corridors he had memorized perfectly. Every door, every panel, every routine was familiar. Nothing could surprise him. His goal was the docking bay. There, small exploration vessels rested, ready for rapid deployment. If he could reach one, he could escape, at least temporarily, and perhaps bring his fellow humans along. But he had to be careful. One wrong step could alert the aliens. As he approached the docking bay, he encountered a guard. The alien paused, but Liam greeted it in their language calmly, politely. "Good evening. All systems are functioning properly?" he asked. The alien blinked, surprised by his fluency. "Yes, all stable," Liam smiled faintly. "Very good. I will continue inspection." He passed by without raising suspicion. The guard watched him leave, still amazed at the human's intelligence, completely unaware of his intentions. In the docking bay, Liam moved to the nearest vessel. It was sleek, designed for one occupant but fast and maneuverable. He examined the control panel carefully. All of it made sense now. The symbols, the energy flows, the navigation settings, they all followed logic. Logic, he had learned. He began inputting commands, adjusting sequences slowly, quietly. The engine hummed as he powered it on. Systems activated in sequence, shields online, navigation ready. The vessel was alive, responding to his touch, then he paused. He could go now, but the other humans, Sarah, Michael, and the others, were still aboard the main ship. Freedom was not just for him. It had to be for all of them. He took a deep breath and moved back to their chambers. He spoke to each quietly, teaching them what he had learned. "Follow my instructions. Stay calm, watch carefully. Knowledge is our weapon." They nodded, their eyes wide with trust and hope. They had seen what Liam could do. His calm had given them courage, and now his plan gave them purpose. Once everyone was ready, they moved together. Liam led them through corridors he knew were unguarded during the night cycle. Every step was precise, every turn calculated. The aliens were not asleep, but they were unaware. Their routines had predictable gaps, and Liam had memorized every one of them. Finally, they reached the docking bay. 2 vessels were ready. Liam led the first, Sarah and Michael following closely. He helped them enter the cockpit and powered the engines. The small ships vibrated lightly, responding to the controls. But just as they were about to launch, an alarm sounded. A panel flashed red. Someone had noticed movement. Barkle's voice boomed through the bay. "Intruders! Stop them!" Liam acted without hesitation. "Start engines!" he shouted in the alien language, ensuring the others could follow commands quickly. The vessels lifted, shields activating just as alien guards reached the bay. Energy beams flashed across the dock, but Liam's precise timing allowed the ships to slip through the shield barriers. They rose into the void of space, narrowly avoiding pursuit. Behind them, the alien vessel searched frantically, but it was too late. The humans were gone. Liam guided the ships to a safe distance using the navigation patterns he had memorized. The smaller vessels were fast and maneuverable, designed for exploration rather than battle. Still, with careful flying, they could outrun the alien ship. Once they reached a safe orbit near a nearby uncharted planet, Liam stopped the vessels. Everyone took a moment to breathe, relief washing over them. Sarah smiled at him, eyes shining. You really did it," Liam nodded, a small smile on his face. "We did it. Together." They landed on the planet's surface, finding a quiet place with stable terrain. Liam activated communication devices, hoping to detect any response from the message he had sent. Minutes passed. Then a faint signal appeared. A human monitoring station had received it. Earth knew they were alive. Hope returned in full force. They were not just escaping, they were surviving. And now they had a chance to fight back, to warn others, to reclaim what was taken from them. That night, under the alien stars, Liam reflected on what had happened. He had been captured, treated as a pet, underestimated at every turn. But he had used knowledge, patience, and observation to turn the tables. The aliens had thought him weak. They had thought humans were simple. They were wrong. Over the following days, Liam and the others explored the planet cautiously. They found shelter, energy sources, and natural resources to sustain themselves. Liam taught the others how to understand the alien ship's technology, how to use it for survival without alerting any pursuing forces. Humans were learning quickly, just as he had predicted. The alien ship remained in orbit, scanning the area, but it could not detect everything. Liam had studied their systems deeply. He knew how they operated, how they responded to signals, how they calculated threats, and he knew that humans had a strength no alien could match: ingenuity. With careful planning, Liam began sending coded messages back to Earth, providing intelligence on the alien technology, fleet movements, and potential weaknesses. He had turned captivity into a weapon. Every detail he had learned on the ship became a tool for survival and eventual victory. The human team grew stronger each day. They learned to communicate, to observe, and to act with precision. Liam became a leader, not because he sought power, but because his knowledge and calm inspired confidence. Every decision he made was measured, every action deliberate. Months passed. The alien vessel eventually departed, unable to detect the humans' presence. Liam and his group were alone on the planet, but they were free. They had survived. They had adapted, and most importantly, they had proven that humans were not creatures to be underestimated. Standing on a cliff overlooking the planet's glowing horizon, Liam looked at the stars. The universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and incredible possibilities. He had learned the language of the aliens, the workings of their technology, and the strength of human determination. "Humans always find a way," he said softly. Sarah stood beside him. "You really are something else, Liam. You gave us hope when all seemed lost." Liam smiled faintly. "No, we gave each other hope. That is what makes humans strong. Together nothing can stop us." In the distance, the alien ship continued its patrols, unaware that the pet it had captured had become something far greater. A strategist, a leader, a human who could turn knowledge into freedom. And as the night stars shimmered above them, Liam knew one truth more clearly than ever. Humans survived because they learned, adapted, and never gave up. Even against the most powerful alien force, intelligence, patience, and courage were unstoppable. The story of survival, learning, and ingenuity had reached its peak. Liam and his companions were no longer captives, they were pioneers. Living proof that humans, even in the darkest corners of the universe, could shine brighter than any alien expectation. The human pet had spoken their language. The human mind had learned their ways. And the human spirit had claimed freedom. Liam looked toward the stars, a calm determination in his eyes. The universe was vast, but humans would face it boldly, together. They had survived the impossible, and they would survive again. The adventure was over, for now. But the story of humans and their courage would continue, stretching across the stars, a reminder that no cage, no alien, no challenge could ever contain the power of a determined human mind. The alien ship floated silently above Earth, its dark metal hull reflecting the blue and green of the planet below. Inside, the council chamber buzzed with quiet conversation. Beings of all shapes and sizes gathered, some tall and thin with shimmering skin, others short and heavy with multiple limbs. Yet all eyes were fixed on the view outside the large observation window. The ambassador of the Yeltrax, a tall, silver-skinned creature with translucent eyes that seemed to glow in dim light, leaned closer to the glass. His elongated fingers tapped lightly on the console. He had studied many worlds, many civilizations, but something about Earth puzzled him. "They are different," he murmured. His voice was low, barely audible over the soft hum of the ship's engines. A small aide, a round creature with 4 eyes named Krelak, turned to him. "Different how, Ambassador? They move. They build. They fight. And yet..." The ambassador paused, watching a small human child chase a dog through a crowded city park. "There is courage here. And kindness. It is unlike anything I have ever recorded." Krelak blinked rapidly, processing the information. "Do you think it is natural? Or is it learned behavior?" The ambassador shook his head slowly. "I do not know. That is why we are here. To observe. To understand. And perhaps, to warn them if we must." Outside, the humans carried on with their lives, oblivious to the silent eyes above. Cars moved through streets, small boats glided over rivers, and crowds filled parks and plazas. The humans spoke to each other in countless languages, yet all of them shared the same rhythms of daily life: work, play, care, and curiosity. The council had debated the mission for weeks. Some members argued humans were too primitive to matter. Others feared their potential for violence. But the ambassador insisted. "We cannot judge from afar," he said. "We must see them up close. Only then will we know." The ship's smaller observation pods descended toward the surface. They were nearly invisible, cloaked in a field that bent light around them. The humans below continued their lives, entirely unaware of the silent visitors. Inside one of the pods, the ambassador and Krelak floated above a small town. Children ran through the streets laughing and shouting. A man repaired a bicycle with careful precision. A woman helped an elderly neighbor carry groceries. These were ordinary scenes, but to the ambassador they were remarkable. "They care for each other," he whispered. "Even the smallest acts. They are remarkable." Krelak tilted his round head. "It seems simple. Why would that surprise you?" "Because no other species we have observed acts this way without expectation," the ambassador replied. His eyes focused on a small boy helping a younger girl climb onto a swing. "There is no reward, no fear of punishment. Only choice, only intent." The pod moved silently over a nearby city. Humans walked quickly through crowded streets, yet some paused to help a lost child or pick up litter. Others argued, yes, but even in conflict there was creativity, persistence, and problem-solving. The ambassador's attention was drawn to a construction site. A crane towered over a partially built structure. Several humans worked together, lifting beams, directing each other with clear signs and words. One worker noticed a small trapped animal under some debris. Without hesitation, he dropped his tools and called others for help. Together, they freed the creature safely. The ambassador's translucent eyes widened. "Are all Earth creatures like that?" he whispered. Krelak remained silent, unsure of how to answer. The question hung in the air. It was not a challenge or accusation, it was awe. Even among the council, it was rare for a species to provoke such wonder. The pod shifted again, this time to a riverbank where humans were fishing and washing clothes. One man noticed a small child struggling in the water. Without thinking, he dove in and pulled the child to safety. He did not pause to consider danger or reward. His actions were instinctive. "They are brave," Krelak said finally. "Perhaps too brave for their own safety." "Bravery is not enough," the ambassador murmured. "It is the way they combine courage with intelligence, compassion, and innovation. That combination, it is unique." The humans' daily lives continued in simple, ordinary ways. But to the observers, each act was a marvel. They built shelters, invented tools, cared for animals, and nurtured each other. Even their games and competitions revealed a deep sense of fairness, strategy, and imagination. The ambassador's attention turned to a young girl sketching in a notebook near the riverbank. Her drawing captured the birds flying overhead, the trees swaying in the wind, and the small ripple of water around the rocks. She concentrated deeply, unaware of the world around her. Krelak asked, "Do you think all of them are like this? The children, the adults, the elderly?" The ambassador's gaze did not waver. "We must observe more. It may not be every individual, but even one is enough to show the potential of the species. The potential is remarkable." The pod moved higher, giving a wider view of Earth. Cities glimmered in the sunlight, rivers sparkled like silver threads, and forests stretched in green waves across the land. Humans were everywhere, living, creating, struggling, helping, and dreaming. The ambassador leaned closer to Krelak. "Prepare the council report. We must record everything, their ingenuity, their compassion, their unpredictability, and above all, their courage." Krelak nodded. "Do you intend to intervene?" The ambassador's gaze hardened slightly. "Not yet. Observation is the first step. Understanding comes next. Intervention, only if necessary." As the pod slowly rose back to the main ship, the ambassador could not take his eyes off the planet. Humans were flawed, yes, they argued, they failed, they fought. But there was a spark that no other species seemed to possess. A spark of determination, creativity, and empathy. He whispered once more, almost to himself, "Are all Earth creatures like that?" The question remained unanswered. Krelak did not respond, nor did the other council members. For a long moment, silence filled the observation chamber. Outside, humans carried on with their ordinary lives, blissfully unaware of the eyes watching them from the stars. And in that silence, the ambassador realized something extraordinary. Humanity, in all its simplicity and complexity, was unlike any species he had ever encountered. It was ordinary, and yet, it was also extraordinary. The council meeting ended, but the ambassador could not stop thinking about what he had seen. There was a sense of hope, yes, but also a hint of something else. Something powerful, something that might change the balance of life in the galaxy. If only humans could be understood correctly. He knew the mission was only beginning. Observation was not enough. Soon tests would be needed. Challenges would arise, and the true measure of humanity's courage, intelligence, and compassion would be revealed. But for now, he watched silently, fascinated and wary. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were extraordinary. And perhaps humans were more than any of the council could imagine. The ambassador whispered one last time before leaving the observation deck. "Are all Earth creatures like that?" And still, no one answered. The ambassador's eyes followed the humans as they went about their lives, but observation alone was not enough. He needed to see how they acted when faced with unexpected challenges. He wanted to know whether their courage, intelligence, and compassion were natural or merely accidental. "Prepare the test," the ambassador said quietly to Krelak. "We will not interfere directly, but small challenges may reveal their true nature." Krelak's 4 eyes blinked in unison. "Are you certain, Ambassador?" "Some of these challenges could be dangerous." The ambassador shook his head. "Danger will be minimized. We are not here to harm them. Only to observe. Humans respond differently when they think a problem is theirs to solve." Outside, the humans continued their ordinary lives, unaware that alien eyes were watching. The first test began in a small city district. A minor technical problem appeared. A bridge's support beam seemed weak, threatening to make the pathway unsafe. Of course, the humans could not see the problem clearly. They only noticed subtle signs, creaking, uneven surfaces, and small cracks. A group of engineers noticed the warning signs. Instead of panicking, they quickly organized a plan. One human retrieved tools, another measured the beam's strength, and a third devised a temporary support using scaffolding. Within hours, the bridge was safe again. Not one person complained, not one expected reward. They acted because it was the right thing to do. From above, the ambassador leaned forward. His eyes glowed faintly with fascination. "See that, Krelak?" he whispered. "They assess. They plan, they act. Without fear, without hesitation, and yet they are careful." Krelak tilted his head. "It is efficient. But is it bravery? Or merely instinct?" "Bravery," the ambassador replied. "Because they know the risk and yet they act anyway. Instinct alone would not produce this level of creativity or coordination." The second test was subtler. A small animal, a dog, was placed in a precarious position near a shallow stream. Humans who noticed it did not panic. A young boy ran to the dog, carefully guiding it to safety. An elderly woman helped by offering her hand to steady both of them as they crossed slippery rocks. The ambassador's eyes narrowed. "Observe. Compassion is not something we have seen so consistently in other species. They do not hesitate even when there is inconvenience or risk." Next came a larger challenge. A malfunctioning robot had fallen into a hazardous zone near a construction site. It emitted sparks and smoke signaling danger. Humans approached cautiously, some unsure what to do. Then a young girl stepped forward, her small frame unafraid. She examined the robot and signaled to others for help. Using planks and ropes, they created a path and retrieved the robot safely. One man quickly repaired minor damage to prevent further malfunction. The humans cheered quietly but not loudly. They did not need recognition. They had done what was necessary. The ambassador whispered to himself, barely audible. "Are all Earth creatures like that?" Krelak remained silent. Even the alien aide could not answer. The display of courage, empathy, and intelligence was unlike anything they had recorded in all observed species. The tests continued over several days. Humans faced sudden challenges, minor accidents, environmental problems, and unexpected obstacles. In each case, they responded with ingenuity and collaboration. In one neighborhood, a fire broke out in a small building. Humans nearby ran to help, not waiting for authorities. They formed chains to carry buckets of water, guided people out safely, and even rescued trapped pets. No one panicked. No one hesitated. And when the fire was controlled, they calmly returned to their routines. In a park, a group of children noticed that a playground slide had been damaged by a fallen tree branch. Instead of crying or complaining, they worked together to remove the branch and warn others. One child even suggested using spare wood to create a temporary ramp. The ingenuity, teamwork, and thoughtfulness amazed the aliens observing them from above. The ambassador took a deep breath. "Observe how they combine intelligence with compassion," he said. "It is not enough to act. They calculate, adapt, and care simultaneously. This is rare. A few of the aliens in the council began to murmur among themselves. Some admired humans, others were wary. What if these creatures were challenged by a larger threat? One asked. Could they defend themselves? The ambassador's eyes darkened slightly. They may surprise us. That is why we must continue observation and subtle testing. Only by understanding their limits will we know the truth. Later, in a quiet forest, the final test was set. A minor landslide blocked a path, trapping a group of hikers and wildlife nearby. Humans noticed the danger quickly. Some ran to help the trapped hikers. Others guided animals to safety. They used ropes, improvised pulleys, and even their own bodies to stabilize rocks and debris. A young woman noticed that a small, frightened fox was trapped beneath a fallen branch. Without hesitation, she lifted the branch, soothing the animal with calm words. Nearby, another human tended to an injured hiker. All acted simultaneously, without waiting for orders or expecting reward. From above, the ambassador recorded every detail. His translucent eyes reflected the humans below, marveling at their choices. Are all Earth creatures like that? He whispered again. The question carried more weight this time. It was not curiosity alone, it was awe and a touch of fear. Krelak finally spoke. Ambassador, they are unlike anything we have observed. Perhaps they are unique. Yes, the ambassador replied, his voice barely audible. Unique and unpredictable. They combine courage, intelligence, and empathy in ways no other species has. That is why we must observe further. Their potential is extraordinary. He watched as humans continued their daily lives unaware of the invisible observers. A man repaired a broken fence, a child helped another learn to ride a bicycle, and a woman shared food with a homeless person. All these small acts, ordinary to humans, were extraordinary to the aliens. The ambassador leaned back, allowing himself a moment of reflection. They do not act out of duty. They do not act for reward. They act because they understand, they care, and they persist. That is remarkable, Krelak blinked. Do you think they will survive challenges beyond their world? The ambassador's eyes did not leave the humans below. I do not know, but I have a sense that if challenged, they will adapt. They will learn. And they will continue to care for one another even in the face of danger. As the day ended, humans returned to their homes. Streets grew quieter. Lights twinkled in windows, and the night settled gently over the land. Yet the alien eyes above remained alert. The ambassador whispered once more, almost to himself, Are all Earth creatures like that? And still, no one answered. But in that silence, he understood something vital. Humanity was unlike any species he had ever encountered. Their courage, intelligence, and empathy were not just traits, they were a force that could astonish, challenge, and perhaps even change the galaxy. The observation pods ascended back to the main ship, leaving humans unaware of the quiet scrutiny above. The ambassador made notes, recorded every detail, and prepared to report to the council. One thing was clear. Humans were extraordinary. Not because they were perfect, but because they acted with heart, mind, and courage, and no test, no challenge could diminish their spirit. The ambassador leaned over the console, watching the twinkling lights of Earth below. This is only the beginning, he said quietly. We will see how far they can go. We will see what they can become. And once again he whispered the question that lingered like a shadow across the stars. Are all Earth creatures like that? And as always, no one answered. The ambassador watched Earth from the observation deck, his eyes fixed on a small city where humans had faced challenges before. He had seen their courage, their empathy, and their ingenuity, but now the true measure of humanity was about to reveal itself. A small alien scout ship, unannounced and malfunctioning, had appeared near Earth's orbit. It was a fragile, unmanned vessel, yet it was dangerous. Its energy field fluctuated, sending uncontrolled pulses toward satellites and communication networks. The humans below were unaware of the growing threat, but the ambassador and his aides could see every detail from their pods. Do they notice it? Krelak asked. Not yet, the ambassador said, and that is precisely what I want to observe. Their response will show how they act when confronted with the unknown. On Earth, the first signs came as minor disruptions. Lights flickered, communication devices buzzed, and small power outages occurred. Scientists in observatories noticed strange readings in orbit. A team of engineers and astronomers quickly gathered to analyze the signals. They did not panic. They did not wait for others to solve the problem. They worked together, pooling knowledge, running calculations, and testing possibilities. The ambassador leaned forward. "See that? No fear. No hesitation. Just action. They adapt, they calculate, and they try solutions, even when the outcome is uncertain." As the rogue ship grew closer, humans launched small research satellites to study it. They did not know whether it was dangerous or friendly. They only knew it was near Earth, interfering with vital systems, and they acted to understand it. Using ingenuity and rapid problem-solving, they created shields and monitoring systems to prevent further damage while gathering data. The ambassador's translucent eyes glimmered with fascination. They do not retreat. They do not wait for permission. They act decisively, even when the unknown is frightening. This is unique. Krelak's four eyes widened. Other species would have panicked or ignored it entirely. "Yes," the ambassador said quietly. "Humans act because they must, and they act together. Observe how they communicate and organize. It is instinct combined with intelligence." The humans also showed empathy. When a small research drone malfunctioned, some scientists insisted on retrieving it even though it was risky. They improvised tools, built protective measures, and guided the drone back safely. Their focus was not on recognition. It was on care, responsibility, and problem-solving. Meanwhile, the rogue alien ship sent intermittent pulses that disrupted power grids across small towns. Humans coordinated quickly, using backup systems, emergency generators, and even makeshift power lines. Citizens worked with authorities, helping each other evacuate buildings at risk and ensuring vulnerable populations, children, elderly, and pets, were safe. The ambassador watched in awe. They do not only survive, they adapt, protect, and preserve. This is not instinct alone. It is awareness, empathy, and creativity combined. Krelak asked, "Do they even realize the danger?" "Some do, some do not," the ambassador replied. "But even those unaware contribute. Their systems, their routines, their curiosity, they all strengthen their response. That is remarkable." As humans experimented to understand the alien ship, they discovered its weakness. Its energy pulses were powered by a misaligned core. A small coordinated effort could stabilize it, or at least redirect its energy away from Earth. Engineers, scientists, and volunteers worked together. Using a combination of robotics, satellites, and careful calculations, they devised a plan. One small crew launched in a research shuttle to approach the rogue ship safely. Guided remotely by others on Earth, they worked together, improvising tools and using knowledge that no single person had entirely. The ambassador's eyes widened. They understand complexity. They cooperate across distance, across disciplines, and even across generations. Observe how they innovate. The shuttle crew approached the rogue ship. Sparks flew as they made contact. They were small humans, vulnerable in a massive, unpredictable situation, but their courage did not falter. One engineer climbed carefully onto the ship's hull to secure a stabilizing cable. Another monitored energy readings to prevent overloads. Every action was precise, calculated, yet daring. Back on Earth, the team below coordinated. They built improvised communication relays, adapted satellite trajectories, and monitored every detail. Citizens helped by maintaining power systems, clearing roads for emergency vehicles, and keeping families safe. The ambassador leaned closer to Krelak. This is not only courage, it is a combination of intelligence, creativity, and empathy, and they show it without fear of recognition or reward. "That is extraordinary," Krelak whispered. "What will the council think when they see this?" "They will be astonished," the ambassador said. "They have not seen a species act like this. Perhaps not even one like this can be predicted." Meanwhile, the rogue ship began to stabilize. Humans, small and ordinary compared to the alien technology, had redirected its energy safely away from satellites and Earth's surface. The ship's pulses became controlled, and it eventually drifted harmlessly into the void. The humans below celebrated quietly, not for fame, but because they had preserved life, knowledge, and safety. Their joy was calm, thoughtful, and shared. The ambassador sat back, silent for a moment, absorbing the scene. They do not seek victory over others. They seek solutions. They do not fight for power. They act for preservation, learning, and care. Krelak asked, "Do you think all of them are like that?" The ambassador's voice was barely audible, a whisper that trembled with awe. I do not know. But enough are like this to make me wonder. Enough to make the galaxy notice, if we do not underestimate them. As the humans continued their routines, rebuilding systems, assisting neighbors, and documenting the event for future study, the ambassador realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not in technology alone, nor in sheer numbers, nor even in brute force. It was in their combination of courage, intelligence, empathy, and creativity. A species could be small, vulnerable, and imperfect, yet still capable of astonishing feats when all these traits combined. From above, the ambassador whispered one last time, "Are all Earth creatures like that?" And again there was no answer. But unlike before, the silence was filled not with uncertainty alone. It was filled with respect, astonishment, and cautious admiration. The humans below had not only faced the unknown, they had tamed it, adapted to it, and preserved life in the process. The ambassador recorded every detail in the council logs. Humans, he wrote, may be one of the most unpredictable and extraordinary species in the galaxy. They combine fearlessness with compassion, intelligence with empathy, and action with thought. Observation alone cannot capture their full potential. Interaction will be required to understand them fully. Krelok asked quietly, "Do you think they could survive challenges beyond their world?" The ambassador's translucent eyes reflected Earth's blue oceans and green forests below. "I do not know. But I suspect that if they are ever challenged, they will rise to it. Not for glory, not for reward, but because they must, because they care, and because they are human." As night fell across the planet, cities glittered with lights. Humans slept in their homes, unaware of the eyes above and the tests they had already passed. Yet their achievements, their courage, and their collaboration had already impressed beings from across the stars. The ambassador remained at the observation deck long after the pods returned to the main ship. His final words before leaving were a whisper, spoken to the stars themselves. "Are all Earth creatures like that?" And as always, no one answered. But the question now carried a new weight, a recognition that humanity was not only capable of extraordinary acts, but could also shape the destiny of worlds and, perhaps, the galaxy itself.